Alrighty, people, here I am again. I now have my beautiful bookcase behind me. Don't ask me if I've read all the books because I haven't. And I am joined here today with the incredibly talented Karen Jacobsen. Now, you may think, I kind of know that name. Why do I know that name? And you might know the voice when she starts talking. And Karen, why don't you give them a little bit of a insight into who you are and what you do and why they might know who you are?
Well, if they're listening to this and they're not driving, I would ask them to close their eyes, and then I will say, at the next intersection, turn left. And then they can open their eyes again. And yes, my speaking voice is in a billion GPS smartphone devices, elevators, cruise ships, software applications around the world telling people where to go and what to do.
Oh my God, that's just amazing. Like,
it's wild, isn't it?
Like, did you wake up one day and go, you know what? I want to be the voice that tells everyone where to go.
Well, I'm bossy by nature, my family would tell you. But no, I dreamed of my singing voice and my songs being on everybody's lips. So somewhere along the way, I didn't have as much clarity with the universe as we would think. But yeah, I've always been, from a very young age, incredibly ambitious. So from that perspective, it's a match.
Oh, well, I think it's really cool. That's a huge legacy to leave, because we're also connected to our phones, and, you know, there's voices everywhere telling us what to do. And I couldn't think of a nicer one to tell me where to go than your voice.
Oh, thank you.
You are so welcome. So I'd love to talk. I know we're going to talk about self-care today, but as I said in my very short intro, you're one of the most talented human beings, and I love it when I go to New York and I get to catch up with you, because that's where you're based, and you got a whole heap of amazing things that you were doing. Last time we talked, and we had that amazing vegan pad thai meal at that cool restaurant that you took me to. How have you been going with all of the ventures that you had in the works? Like, this was in November.
Well, I was composing the score for a musical at that point, and we had a reading which went really well and was very exciting to have an entire cast performing the score and the script, and the book writer for that project is also a Queenslander. So to have two Aussie Queensland women based in New York City, authoring a new musical called Perfectly Imperfect, about dating life, was a huge thrill. And until recent events, we were planning on our next reading. Now it's just timelines are different to what many of us expected for many things. But that's a project that's still ongoing. And I look forward to one day saying, Annette, we're going to Broadway.
Yeah, baby. Guess who'll be there? Front row.
I'm hoping it'll be you.
Well,
and that's
enthusiastic audience member.
That's awesome. Awesome. And the next creative project post that project, I have just given my first 2 preview performances for, is what I am calling a musical memoir. It's called Mackay to Manhattan. Mackay is my hometown. Manhattan is my home of the last 20 years. And the show is part concert, part motivational experience. And I tell the story of my life and overcoming many challenges and anxiety and, you know, self-esteem and financial disaster through the songs I've written from the age of 7 all the way through my life. And it was I've done quite a lot of personal development work in my life. I have some great tools. I'm a daily meditator. I mean, I consider myself to be really committed to growth and growth mindset. But I got to tell you, the several months between when I saw you in November and the preview performances of this show in early March were some of the most challenging periods of or experiences of growth and self discovery I've ever done. And I'm really happy to say that I did get to give the first 2 preview performances in California before the world shut down, and they were well received, and I'm looking forward to a time when live events will again exist and I can travel and do my part in helping to heal human beings from not only the difficulties they've been through in their own lives, but of course this time of true global challenge for everybody.
It is, isn't it? And it's and as a fellow lover of live events, I know that that's something that I feel a big void at the moment, because being able to go to the theatre or to live music festival, I love going to festivals, taking my shoes off and getting really dirty and dancing around like a crazy person for 8 hours, is something that I miss. And I can only imagine what it's like for someone like yourself who's a performer and, gets that such a buzz and fulfillment from being on stage in front of other people. So how do you reconcile that with you because there's no end date, we don't know when this is over. How do you get through each day without being able to give yourself in that way?
Here's what I have been doing. And I'm first of all going to say we're all working from home right now. And this seems to be the perfect moment for my husband to fix a door in the other room because I'm hearing banging. But instead of us editing that out, Annette, I'm going to say to everybody listening, I hear you, I feel you. We're all in the same boat.
I keep reading all of these articles on how to have a professional Zoom meeting, and it's like I've got my son in the bedroom and he's been warned with threat of end of life to not swear.
I bet.
Because he's normally dropping a few F-bombs like while he's playing games. But I think if we talk about this, somewhere we've got to kind of dispense with this perception of what professional is.
Oh, I love it. I love it. One of the great outcomes of this time for me, and I may cry saying it, is how real life and business life are becoming, merging into one experience. And that's not to diminish the absolute mess it is to remote school or provide childcare for your children and to parent at the same time as doing something like work or running a business. It is not, they're not designed to be done this way, okay? And we are all in a crisis, so I'm not diminishing that. But one of the things I'm loving, I have a friend in the corporate world who was saying, they're on their regular work calls, but, there'll be a child run through or somebody will need to be held. And it's just, to me, that's really a beautiful part. So I digress. Now back to your question and how I'm handling not knowing, really for the foreseeable future, when I can again perform live at a live event, whether it be sharing a message as a speaker or as a musical performer. And I have grappled with it. But what I've been doing for myself is to find timelines that I think could be very extreme and make sense so that I can exhale and have some peace. So I have events booked in July, which are my premiere performances of this show. And I'd designed it that I would preview in March, and then I would do a number of private house concerts between March and July. Well, they're now not going to happen, okay, in the way that I thought, but then I've got booked premieres in July. So what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to those clients and venues and I'm saying, we have no timeline, any of us. How about we transfer those dates to July 2021? Now, it's a long way off. It could be extreme. We might be back at it sooner than we think. But for me, and I think for those clients, it's going to be an opportunity to exhale and say, okay, pressure's off. We know what we're doing then. And if that changes again, it changes again. But I think that certainly for me, in terms of from a booking perspective, that makes a lot of sense. Now, from a performance perspective, I've been experimenting like many people in the entertainment and live event industry. My calendar cleared very quickly, and you know, it was kind of a collective level of shock of how quickly that happened for so many of us. But I have been giving myself a lot of room to allow myself to be in that survival mode of just taking care of myself, which we'll talk more about. But I've shifted my focus to creating. I am planning to do some online concerts. I haven't done one yet, but I do plan to do one in the next week, maybe 2 weeks, start to do that. But I have a page on a platform called Patreon, and this is a new venture for me that I started in early March. And it's a community, to build my own community of people interested in behind the scenes of the creative process. And I'm sharing a lot of tools there, but I, as part of a songwriting club I belong to, write a song a week as part of my own personal songwriting practice. And I'm sharing that fresh material, whether it be a live video that I record and share or an audio that I record and share there. And it's a closed community. It's private. It's not the same as, oh, everyone on social media can get access to it. It's only for those who really want that kind of very private, up close and personal experience. And that's where I'm channeling my energy and what is making me feel like I'm having an interactive experience with in terms of live as an alternative, I suppose, to live performance.
And I guess we're all kind of adapting and changing how we do what we do and how we do what we love, because I think one of the dangers is that if we go too deep into, oh, this isn't fair, or, you know, why is this happening, that it makes us it's really hard to move forward, isn't it? Because we're constantly looking backwards where, you know, I'm a big believer in it is what it is, you know, regardless of how I've felt and how I've managed in the last 3 weeks. In the back of my head, it's still, this is what it is. How can I make the best out of it? And it sounds like you're doing like incredible making the best out of it.
Well, I have had plenty of swinging, uncomfortable, downright horrid emotions during this time. So I'm certainly wanting to be clear that I'm in a really good space at this exact moment in this conversation with you, connecting with somebody like-minded and feeling useful and being able to share what's working for me and hear what's working for you. And that's beautiful. And, you know, I have a 12-year-old son who's now remote schooling and doesn't like to be told what to do at the best of times. So then there's dealing with that. And there's dealing with, you know, my husband and I looking at each other and going, well, what are we going to do? What do we do? What are we going to do? And we don't know. And I'm finding it easier to be with we don't know and the uncertainty than I was in the first few weeks. So just to say, yes, I feel like I've got a handle on a few aspects of things, but it's fluid, it's moving all the time. And on the one hand, I'll hear, oh, New York schools, we want to get you back. And then on the other hand, I hear, no one's going back till September. We are truly in the unknown. Now, we always were, but we told ourselves we weren't before. But yeah.
I guess that, you know, we were talking about putting pressure on ourselves. If we are getting too caught up with, I've got to be in control, and I feel really sorry for the perfectionists and those people who need that element of control in their life. And I think that's maybe kind of one of the benefits of being a creative person is that you're kind of used to that, oh, this may or may not work, is what should be our number one priority right now?
How we feel is our number one priority. For me, I mean, you're asking me what I think, and I think every single human being right now has an opportunity to pause the action and really take a look. Okay, what makes me feel good in a healthy way, not in an I'm going to eat all the chocolate ice cream kind of way. Like, however, I'm not saying don't do some of that, but what I am saying is to really nourish, that's the word, nourish ourselves, mind, body, and spirit. That is your number one job right now.
I think I like that word better.
Get that right?
You're doing all right. I think I like that word, Karen, better than self-care.
Me too.
Nourish sounds just so much more enriching and earthy, doesn't it? Like when you nourish your skin, you're putting, beautiful creams on it that, it soaks up and it just bounces back and it looks healthier. And when you're nourishing your body, it means you're eating really good foods and, you're full of energy and you're vibrant. I think I like that. Let's go with nourish than self-care.
Yes, and I think when we use that word then across other areas of life, if you're nourishing your relationships, same goes.
How do you, because like your business is music, what else do you do? Like, have you got other little tendrils out into the world that help fulfill you from a business perspective?
I have a number of income streams and ways people can work with me on my menu. I have some coaching clients, some one-on-one clients. I have, a large part of my business is speaking at live events and then singing at events. But I also have for many years done voiceover work, and I still have my home studio set up. And one of the interesting things that's been coming my way is more voiceover opportunities and audiobook requests than I've had in a long time. So that it's exciting to think, well, I can do that from home. I can be useful and provide a service and make an income that way. I, like many people, have an income stream from a direct selling company with a range of very healthy, clean body and nutrition products, which fits in with nourishing and does fit in with my values and my brand value of being able to recalculate, being able to make your dreams come true and reach your own dream destination by making sure you're really energized and to be able to do that from a successful health point of view. So there are a few of the other things that I have in my menu.
You're busy.
Well, I have different potential opportunities. I'm not really that busy. And I am personally using this time to look at those different income streams and saying, well, where can I be of the most use? How can I serve the best? What's the best use of my my time and my talents?
I guess, like, using a GPS term, it is a really good time to recalculate, isn't it? And I think you've used that. Some of your speeches and public talks that you do is about recalculating. And when you do those talks, what are some of the things that you tell people to consider when they are looking at going, okay, now I've realised that I was talking to a lady last night. She is a professional in a specific industry and she's decided she hates it. She's been doing it for decades. And in the last couple of weeks has gone, I actually hate doing this particular profession.
Wow.
And it's like, I just got goosebumps thinking about it. It's like now she's got an opportunity to recalculate. If you were sitting in front and talking to her, what are some of the things that you get her to explore as she goes, well, how do I turn this little boat around and go another way?
Well, that is a very exciting story because so two answers. First answer is to your question about this being a time to recalculate, and then I want to speak specifically about that client. First of all, I believe we will get to a point which we aren't at yet, where in fact most human beings in the world and most organizations in the world will be on a path to recalculate. I don't think we are able to recalculate yet. We are still in shock. We're in different levels of grief, shock, shut down, stunned, feeling emotions we've never felt before. So we're still so much in the unknown that recalculating, which is an active process, really doesn't fit yet. We're in survival. So I actually came up with, I had a thought earlier just before this call. I think we're in pre-calculate. We're in a pre-recalculating phase. We all know, actually, which many times we don't. Something will happen in our lives or in our businesses and we're like, okay, well, time to recalculate. Didn't see it coming. This time we all see it coming. We're in the pre-stage, but we are not in any shape to actively do it yet, which is good news if we can give ourselves the gift of some breathing room. And everybody's situation is different. So some people are concerned about finances. Some people their brains are working very hard to try and figure out how things are going to work later. Well, we don't know. So you're not alone there. But once the time comes to recalculate, and this is where I'll refer to your client who has had an epiphany early in this process, which is very exciting. My 5 directions for recalculating are to notice that you are off route. And this client has noticed that she's off route really quickly. Kudos to this person. Be willing to change direction is the second step. Again, totally willing. Bam, 1, 2. Now, the next one is to clarify your destination, which is where I think this client is sitting. And it may be where some of the people listening are able to be right now, but if you are not, it's so normal. I don't think that many people are in a really clear state to clarify their destination, and especially not our timeline. But when the time comes, clarifying your destination will be the third step. An opportunity to really look at, well, if I could have it be any way I want to have it be, how would that be? The fourth step is to embrace the steering wheel, which is once you know where you want to be headed, is to put your hands on the steering wheel and go, okay, geeing myself up, ready to go, getting ready to go. And then the fifth and final stage is to accelerate, which is about taking action. But I caution again, most of us are really not in any of those. We're not even on in the game yet. We're not even noticing we're off route. We're too busy, or not too busy. We're just in a reactive state.
We so are. It's like I think it was like the second week where it's like, okay, this is really serious, Mum. That I'm watching people talking about, okay, we've got to adapt, we've got to change, we've got to pivot, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to do that. And I'm like, kind of like going, holy crap, I'm like still getting over the fact that my clients are dropping off like flies.
Yeah.
And I'm getting used to the fact that I can't go to Bali in May because no one's allowed to go anywhere. And it's, I guess when we're talking about nourishing, it's also about not giving ourselves a hard time for not being where everybody else is right now, or where we perceive that people are right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. This is my husband, I'd had this thought, but I think he put it so well. He said the entire world is in an ashram right now, and many people would never have ever considered going to an ashram. So we're not in a silent meditation, but we are all left with ourselves and our own thoughts in a way that it can be extremely uncomfortable if there is considerable work to be done in that area. And I think it can be one of the most powerful and healthy times of our lives, this period. Despite, I am not diminishing how hard it is. It's really, 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 really hard. But all the really good stuff, all of the really good stuff happens on the other side of hardship. And what a time collectively to go through that, to connect, to understand. So I would never have wished it. I really wouldn't.
No.
But I guess I want to say that if you're having a hard time with thoughts that are coming, and if you're finding it difficult to nourish yourself, that's so totally normal, and it can improve with practice. And it is those one little tiny step every day. You know, I meditate twice a day for 20 minutes, and this is a commitment that I have. I've meditated daily since 2011, so I'm a reasonably long-term meditator. And last August I did a transcendental meditation course, and now I meditate twice a day. And I am consistent with it. For me, that's a non-negotiable practice. I'm going to add to that when I finish my meditation, I do a few little yoga stretches. Now, when I say a few little yoga stretches, I mean I do a cat-cow and a down dog and a child's pose. It might take 2 minutes. I'm not practicing my regular 30-minute or 90-minute fantastic yoga. I'm not doing that. I can't even conceive of that right now. Would it be amazing for my fitness? Yeah, but I'm sorry, that's way too much pressure. But a little stretch, an extra glass of water in the morning every day, these are the tiny, tiny steps. And it's the consistency is where we start to build our true, solid health from nourishing ourselves in just the tiniest ways that you don't even think are going to make a difference.
I read many years ago a book by Jeff Olson called The Slight Edge.
I love that book so much. It's totally slight edge.
It is totally, as you were saying that, I just kept hearing his voice because I had the audio that I kept and I listened. It was 3 CDs, and I listened to it over and over and over again. And it really helped me, particularly when I was struggling with something, that it was like, if I just do this one thing every day this week, then next week it'll be so hard and it'll get easier. And then maybe I can add a little bit more in as I move through. And if we keep coming back to the pressure that we put on ourselves, is that if we break it down and make it simpler. Because like I too have like gone, I should really be doing yoga every day. And it's like,
yeah.
I mean, I've still got work to do. I'm just going to get that done. I said to my husband yesterday, I said, this week is my last week of work because I'm pretty much done with all my client work. So I thought, you know what, next week I'm going to take my yoga mat to the lake, which is just that way, 4 minutes walk, and do that every morning instead of lying in bed feeling sorry for myself.
And might I say, it's perfectly allowed to do that at 11 a.m. and just go and sit on the darn yoga mat and do nothing but sit on it, or be in child's pose, or lie down on it and breathe in and out. I think this is a time like no other to be so very gentle with ourselves, because taking the yoga mat and putting it out and just lying down on it is going to feel good.
Yeah.
And then one day you might feel like doing a pose. I just cannot stress how these simple actions are are the pathway.
I just so love your heart, Karen. Every time I speak to you, it's like, oh, I wonder if she's got a spare room and I can move in.
Oh,
You're just so beautiful. I love this very simple, gentle wisdom that you've shared, because I know I've struggled the last 3 weeks with thinking, oh, I should be doing more, and oh, like I'm falling apart and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And, what's the right thing to do? But like, there's no right thing to do. And as you said, is that we don't know how long this is going to go on for. So let's stop worrying about that and just do those simple things to fill our heart just a little bit every day.
just a little bit every day.
Just,
Stop looking at what everyone else is doing. I
just
mean, we could all write a whole bunch of books, and there are a lot of very helpful phrases coming through social media, and one of them is, we aren't working from home. We're in a crisis. We are in a crisis where we are trying to get work done at home. Now, I'm an optimist by nature, and I'm a person who likes to elevate and uplift, and I don't usually buy into even labeling something a crisis, but this is one time where it really truly is. It's the first, top line of the description of what's going on here is we're in a time of crisis.
There's not many global pandemics that I've lived through before.
And I love that.
and I find it really interesting. Like, I'm not a political person, but, I'm like others, it's an Australian sport, and I would say it's an American sport as well, to have it pick at our leaders. And, our leader certainly copped it during the fires. But I was noting the other day how he has adapted and changed and has been coming up with some great ideas to support, as many people as possible financially through this. Yes, there's going to be a cost, but how many people pick and go, oh, he could be doing better? And I'm always like, so what's your solution? Because
right,
there's no playbook for this. No. Everyone's a critic, or maybe not everyone.
Well, and everyone is doing their best, well, and sometimes not even doing their best, but is trying to survive this and trying to make sense of it, and under an enormous amount of stress and dealing with so much fear. And sometimes it comes out in their favorite sport, which is to criticize politicians.
Absolutely. Look, we were talking about your creativity and the things that you were doing, and I was thinking about some of the things that I'm seeing people do. It's going to be amazing in 12 months' time to look back and see all the incredible things that do come out of this particular time that we're living in. It's really hard to not fall back on cliches, isn't it?
It really is.
I keep going, this time of crisis. That's my
right
look.
Right.
So we're going to have this will be almost like, after every massive moment in time in our history, like World War One, World War Two, there have been incredible innovations and incredible changes and incredible discoveries and inventions. So maybe this is just the universe's way of giving us a bit of a slap, albeit very harshly, and saying, it's time to stop. Look at what you're doing to the planet. Look at what you're doing to each other. And let's see how much more love we can put out there.
Count me in on that team.
Yep. Okay. You're my first pick on Annette Change the Universe team. I'll see how many other people I can recruit. I'm pretty sure that I can get a few. My friend Hayley and I and Nat started a group this week called Obsessed With, and it's all about what are the things that get you really fired up in a really positive way. And
how awesome.
It's been amazing looking at the engagement and people who are sharing like really cool things, even just their talent on sewing cushions or, cooking and singing and things like that. It's absolutely amazing. So I'm fairly certain I can count on 500 people there to join our team. We're ready to take over the world.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining me today. completely honoured. As I say, I always love being in your space. I think you're incredible. And do you have any last words of wisdom that you would like to leave with our wonderful listeners and viewers?
Well, I have two. One is the message I love to leave with people in general, which is it is never too late to recalculate. And even though we aren't recalculating yet, we're just being gentle with ourselves and moving through survival mode of a crisis. If you ever start to worry that you're behind and you don't have it organized enough for when the time comes, it is never too late to recalculate. You are not behind. And if I get to have the last word, I always like to say, you have reached your destination.
And that's it, people. Exit the vehicles. Make sure you lock the doors. And we'll see you again next time. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Annette.